If you don't get out of my face, you're gonna get cut.
Hey, it's Soul, and this is a mid-weekly, the show that replaces the normal weekly because, damn it, I'm gonna take a Friday off for a change, so it might as well be this one. So let's give thanks to the many-faced god, the subscribers on Twitch, the loving patrons, to newcomers Allison and Brandon for their generosity, and of course, those lo-fi Shadowlands tracks that ran for like 3 days non-stop for me. Yeah, totally awesome. And you, yeah, right, you're awesome too. So we made it, folks. We stepped over that cliff, or we fell up into that hole in the sky, or we dropped down. I don't know. Shadowlands is here. In fact, that whole spectacle of it's here is still ongoing. It's only been a few days since launch, and the dust hasn't even settled yet. It's presumptuous of me to suggest that Blizzard ought to pat themselves on the back for a job well done, but we've observed over WoW's many expansions that the first steps out the gate are very, very important to the player psyche. There were problems. Large realms brought to their knees under the stress of who knows how many players pounding at the gates. Disconnects and bugged quests and black screens, you name it. This launch is not perfect. But in the face of mounting anxiety over the shared questing experience, an almost year-long pandemic, and one delay, I think it was handled much, much better than pundits, including myself, had feared. You're likely to disagree though. After all, I'm just making this broad assertion, but you, person on the whatever, have a story to tell. Guess what though? So do I, in 10 hours of solo leveling my way to 60. But first, let's lay it all out. What's available this first week of Shadowlands? There is, of course, the zone campaign that everyone's going to complete in order to do much of anything afterwards. There's the first 3 layers of Torghast for all that soul ash stuff, the legendary resource that, in a report posted not long before launch, can also appear on the mission table. This is terrific news to address the concern that maybe you guys might not like Torghast gameplay and want an alternate path. The current renown cap is 3, maybe 4, but it seems like it's going to be 3. After completing the first chapter of your Covenant campaign at level 60, you get your renown boosted up to level 2. Then you also complete 1 weekly quest to farm up some anima. That means in theory, next week you'll be able to get Renown 5, which is the perfect breakpoint to complete the next chapter of the Covenant campaign and some other fun stuff. The way the numbers work, virtually everyone at this stage should also have the mission table unlocked. You might be seeing a tutorial mission constantly appearing and reappearing. If so, make sure that one of your follower peoples are at level 6, and then you should be able to see real missions start to populate. And here's a reminder that the WoW Companion app is also up and running for Shadowlands, so you can run missions while offline and keep tabs on Covenant callings, which only refresh after the daily reset, so stop using that. Just stop looking. So here's my review of the first couple days of Shadowlands. You know, the leveling experience plus other things maybe, right? Quick summary is that even after the alpha and beta, like after a lot of level testing, repeating quests over and over again, and probably no fewer than 50 or so trips through the maw, it was still awesome. Because just for a bit, we weren't just testers, we weren't content creators or streamers or whatever, all of us were lumped together. And we got to, well, there was phasing too, but we all got to share the experience together. The maw was what I expected it to be, as in it was so heavily controlled by aggressive sharding. I was pretty anxious that with so many people doing escort quests at the same time, it would be super easy to attract other people's NPCs and cause a massive traffic jam, but not so. Having a dozen or so people on screen disappear all of a sudden is a bit jarring, but hey, it's way better than the alternative. In fact, I didn't run into any significant bottlenecks at all all the way until Ardenweald. Well, oh look, there's Alliance. What? That's different. Up to that point, I was leveling in war mode, and I did a few side quests here and there to avoid hitting a wall, and I found it pretty curious that in Bastion and Maldraxxus, I didn't see a single Alliance character. When I hit Ardenweald, though, I was like, oh, okay, I found them. It didn't occur to me that thanks to war mode bonuses, Alliance could just steamroll past zones without a second thought. So between them and the players who were really pushing, I was pretty much pretty much always behind the pack, so up to that point it was pretty chill. Ardenweald is what I guess felt the hardest, as in here was where the level tuning began to really come into play. Mobs were a bit tougher to kill, they hit harder, I was starting to take a second glance at gear for upgrades if I happened to get like a little bonus upgrade when I turned in a quest. And I got into a few fights with the Alliance, but there was no real friction or blockers. And it wasn't long until the pack, I guess, pushed ahead of me, or at least I think it did. Once I got to Revendreth, I was approaching the 9th or so hour since launch, midnight Pacific time, and it might come as a surprise to some, but people started going to bed. Ooh. The crowd really thinned out at this point. Folks from Europe started popping back on stream since it was morning for them, and they were asking, as people kept asking as they would drop a line like, oh, how's the leveling going? How's Shadowlands? How's the launch? For me, it was pretty darn smooth. But that story would be a little bit short and a bit too positive, right? You see, not only was I streaming, I was also on Discord with my guild so we can banter and talk smack. I could help answer questions if they got stuck, but I listened too. One of my guys couldn't find their character for a good 2 hours because they activated a toy. One person's questline totally broke and they had to return to Azeroth and return to fix it. And I heard complaints over the nonsensical story, the bashing of what is obviously the best Covenant ever, clearly they're all crazy. I heard critiques over the linear storyline, that Revendreth is interesting but Bastion is not. Why not have open-ended questing from the start? And to be frank, they could have. I could spend a few long minutes on how that could have been done, followed by an optimal questing path. But looking back to the many cutscenes and cinematics and story beats, it's clear that these zones are constructed in order, with a cadence of moments and beats, ups and downs, with a topper that, for me, it really sells the why. Why the heck are we here? What's at stake, and what happens if we do nothing? Oh. Okay, I think I get it now. The way Battle for Azeroth and Legion leveling was constructed, it did capture moments where it could, but really it just wasn't the same. But if not the story, it was the gameplay and pacing that's really gonna hook players into this loop. The end of the leveling campaign and into endgame does indeed take us in a lot of directions, from our home zone to the Maw to Oribos to other zones, and that does read as overwhelming if you look at it in an article or if I talk about it in a video. And while folks like me and the Wowhead team have kicked up some dust over this last-minute time gating on Renown, that again serves the purpose of not overwhelming players with too much to do all at once. Or maybe I'm just bad at explaining stuff, I thought about that too. But when your boots are finally on the ground, when you're seeing this for yourself, the endgame feels like it falls in place as you approach these systems on top of systems, like here's a thing to do, here's another thing to do, here's a reason to come back. If the current renown cap of 3 sticks, I speculate that's intentional as well. It is time gating, yes, but if it was left in place, that would mean that there would be some sort of a required strat or optimization that would let us also unlock our Covenant activity, this casual content, but it opens up a whole new layer of farming that, again, might be more than what some people want to handle. There are two camps of critics that we're trying to address here. There's the one who's like, oh, GG Blizz, where's the content? And then there's the one who's like, whoa, these are like way too many systems to grind, this is too much. Letting these breathe just a little bit gives players who don't read every Wowhead article time to mentally prioritize what is and what is not important. Battle for Azeroth didn't deliver the same way. We got the Heart of Azeroth and islands and a mission table pretty much right from the start, but until Warfront, Endgame didn't bring players anything new to the table that made us go, huh, okay, yeah, this is compelling. It was more like, alright, better farm that Azerite gear, cool. Oh wait, we need to grind AP to get the neck to the level to activate that Azerite gear. Yeah, that's not as cool. And we thought we were done, and then boom, essences. And then we thought we were done with that, and then blow, corruption. As for alt leveling, aka the Threads of Fate, it's working extremely well for me because my alts are second-class citizens. They're farmers for my main, okay? And it's great. I escape the maw, and almost immediately I just hop into the Shadowlands to start herbing and mining. Like that candle person over in the Enclave is like, hey, are you gonna choose a covenant? And I'm like, dude, I already did. Mining and herbalism, buddy. I noticed in more than a few conversations that the challenge of Threads of Fate for some players will be the lifting of almost all the context and pacing that Blizzard is infamous for. Some folks are wired to just farm dungeons for experience and then they're done. But now we're seeing a new kind of reaction from players who are just kind of like plopped into the world if they choose to and are kind of left, ooh, what do I do? So obviously I'm coming away from the first few days of Shadowlands firmly in the honeymoon phase. For those of you who are on the fence of trying out Shadowlands, I'm not going to tell you to buy it, but I will tell you that I'm having a heck of a lot of fun. And I would compare the experience to Legion 7.0 without the RNG heavy grinding. I'm not rushing to do dungeons yet, I'm ignoring a lot of the world quests, but I'm devouring everything that there is to offer that I care for. Because there's that much more to do. I've got options that fit me as a player. Inevitably though, the phase will end, the honeymoon will be over, the shine will lose its luster, and the sustainability of these systems that I'm praising will really be put to the test. Not today though. Today, I'm gonna give the team over at Blizzard a high five. Boop, and a big thank you for busting their ass to push this onto our screens and into our memories. Don't let my gushing set the tone though, dilute it with a comment below. Tell us what your experience was like, good or bad or not yet. And tune in next week for more streams. Maybe I'll show off my anxious side and stream my first dungeon experiences like, ooh, it's gonna be cringy. Like the video because you're super nice, and subscribe for more of this and all things Warcraft. I'm gonna be taking the rest of the week off from videos and streams, but I will see you next week. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.